Hi, I'm Dan Conti. I'm the leader of the book study on Fulfillment of All Desire by Ralph Martin that we're having at St. Joseph's and the Cluster 11, actually all over, and people from outside of the cluster are part of that too. Um, so this is an introduction to the first week of the book study that we had on Thursday, the 7th of January. And I'm just giving this introduction because it's a recording of a Zoom meeting of this book study, and some of it is a little hard to follow. We sort of, I edited out the beginning where we had some introductions and some um, technical difficulties. Some people were a little late to the meeting and things. So I tried to get started with just the meat of the meeting, the actual content. One thing to be aware of, and around the middle of the recording, we go into small groups. So we will have a couple of questions to discuss, and we broke into small groups with via Zoom. You had what they call breakout groups. So you're in a little meeting with 2 or 3 other people, and then we came right back. So when I edited the video, I cut that part out because you didn't really get to see. They didn't record each individual group, so it's a little bit hard to follow. I say let's go into small groups, and then we're back right away because you don't see what happened in the middle. So I thought I would sort of explain that. So we'll be meeting next Thursday, and hopefully you can be a part of that. But if you can't, you can always come and look at it on YouTube here at the St. Joseph or the Cluster 11 YouTube channel. So without further ado, here's our rough recording of the Zoom meeting, the book study for the Fulfillment of All Desire by Ralph Martin. We'll try. Okay, so there we go. And now, just brimming over with technology here, I'm going to try to share the words to a little song that we might do. There it is. And can you see that? Spirit of the Living God?
Yep.
Okay, now here's the thing with singing on Zoom. I'll sing and you can sing along, but you have to mute yourself, otherwise it'll sound like chaos. So during the song, if everybody could just mute themselves, you know how to do that? Press the little microphone thing in the corner there. And I'll sing through it twice. If you don't know the song, you can learn it. It's really easy. So here we go. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Melt us, mold us, fill us, use us. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. We'll sing it again, praying it. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Melt us, mold us, fill us, use us. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Okay. So I just want to explain a little bit about why I wanted to do this book study. First of all, despite the lighting here, I don't know how this happened. I'm not like any more enlightened than anyone else. It looks like beams are coming down. Um, but I just felt I'll just tell a little story about a year ago. Actually, I wanted to start this a year ago, and it was kind of funny because I said, you know, people don't like coming out for meetings and stuff. There's this software called Zoom that we could use, and we could just have it people doing it at home. And but I didn't know if anybody could, you know, like try something new like that. And lo and behold, a year later, everybody has Zoom. But I was my personal, you know, people think, oh, Dan, he's been involved in the church, and you know, he's a music director, and he's just like a super holy guy, and you know, I've always been involved in the church, and I've always been a prayerful person, and you know, I think that part of our lives is when you're born into it, or you know, you're in this milieu of Christianity or being Catholic, you think, well, that's what you do, and that's what you should do, and that's what you want to be, and everything else. And you can actually, if you don't really examine yourself, you can kind of just do things and not know why you're doing them. And this is, you know, this might sound weird, but like this is sort of a thing that I was thinking of. You know, like if you sign a card and you say, all my love, you know, and then, but it's like if you sign, you know, you're writing a letter to your mother, you say, all my love, then like you don't have any love left for anybody else. Like, how does that work? You give all your love to that person, you know? And, you know, it's like sounds stupid, but like it's one of those things that, well, if you have all, you know, I love you with all my heart, and then, well, then nobody else can have any of that love. What is that about? And it was just a thing that I was thinking about with, you know, about loving God. And this is not really coming out as, you know, sometimes you have these profound things and they seem really profound to you, and other people are like, what are you talking about? But you know, as strange as it seems, uh, I was in church. I was going to mass over in Belfast on the weekdays, because like on weekends I'm kind of working at mass, and I don't always get to just be there, you know. So they have a nice mass with Father, what's his name over there? But
Valancourt.
Father Valancourt, right? And so I like going over there, and they were reading from the Bible, and it said, you know, it was from Deuteronomy. It says, you should love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your strength. So there it is, like right from the beginning, like that's a commandment to, you know, love God with all your soul. And the big revelation for me was like, if I ask myself, do I love God with all my heart and with all my soul and all my strength? And if I'm really honest, it's like, no, I don't. You know, I love myself. I love people, you know, that are close to me, but God, you know, I think a lot of times we love God. I love God because I wanted to go to heaven. I didn't want to go to hell, you know. So I'm supposed to do that. It's a commandment. But, you know, I realized that I didn't have the relationship that they're really talking about, that Jesus talks about, and that the saints talk about. And I thought, well, that's something I got to do something about, because, you know, you go through life and you say, oh, I'm a pretty good guy, you know, I'm doing all right. Oh, we're just going to take a little break here, and the Wentworths are here. Hi.
Yes, hi, Dan.
You made it.
Hello.
Our granddaughter came over and helped us. Here she is.
Oh, so you got
Say hi to
a
Zoe.
that's what you need, a young person.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just in the middle of the introduction here, but I just want to bring you in. But
Okay.
we'll talk to you guys later. So anyway, I was just saying how, you know, if I was honest with myself, I always, you know, I thought, well, I want to be good, I want to be holy, but there was a lot of sin in my life, and there's a lot of things that just were not, didn't feel like that's what had reached the pinnacle, like, and I'm getting old and like should be doing better. What's going on? And right around that time, there's a Facebook group called Authentic Contemplative Prayer or Authentic Catholic Prayer, something like that, that I signed on to. And they have a lot of stuff about contemplation. And I had been interested in that when I was younger. And I got to, there's a lot of different permutations of that. And a lot of sort of Eastern mysticism comes into it. Like nowadays, there's sort of like a mix of things. And I had done some of that in the past. So I was interested in that. And so I looked into it, and they had this little study of the fulfillment of all desire, and I said, well, that sounds interesting. So I got the book and I read it, and I was like, this is it. This is like what everybody should be doing. This is, like I said in the little ad for this thing, if a couple is married and I say, oh, I love my spouse, we only get together for about 10 minutes a day, or once a week for an hour, and sometimes I don't really pay attention. Is that like a good marriage? But that's kind of the way a lot of our faith life is, and what was coming out in this book is about the saints and just being in love with God and being completely giving all your love to God. And I'm not saying that I have reached any pinnacle of this, any great levels. I'm on the same level with everybody else or lower. But my understanding, I believe that God has helped me to understand that you really do have to give all your love to God. And when you do that, then you can love other people in God. And so, because like if we love with just our own love, it's almost kind of like, I love ice cream, I love her, I love him because of what they do for me, that I have this feeling for them, which is, it's natural, it's good, it's human to be attracted to people, to have a feeling of love for them. But when you love them in God, then you're, it's you're giving them something so much better. And you're giving them what real love is, and I think that's in any relationship, whether it's with a spouse, with a friend, or just even enemies. Love your enemies, and so that sort of was like, I think what I don't hear voices, I don't hear like, locution saying, Dan, this is what I'm telling you. But I really felt that understanding, and I thought that would be something that would be important to do. And so I thought maybe we would, take a look at this book, because it's a great introduction. Getting into the book, if you read the introduction, he talks a little bit about his journey and how he was drawn to these saints and their spiritual experiences. And in the opening of it, he talks about a call to holiness, which comes from John Paul II, and who was probably going to be a doctor of the church someday. He should be. And his idea was that, in the church today, he's talking about the church in the 21st century, that, Vatican II was just a preparation for how we should be living now as Christians. And that one of the things about Vatican II that was sort of revived, that had sort of fallen by the wayside, is that every Christian is called to holiness. And, that it's not just something for priests and nuns and professional people who are, monks or whatever, that everyone. That's what Jesus says, and he says, Jesus calls us to holiness. He says, to ask catechumens, do you wish to receive baptism, means at the same time to ask them, do you wish to become holy?
Mm.
It means to be set before them the radical nature of the Sermon on the Mount, be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. And so John Paul says the time has come to repropose wholeheartedly to everyone this high standard of ordinary Christian living. The whole life of the Christian community and Christian families must lead in this direction. And then he talks about our Christian communities must become genuine schools of prayer where meeting with Christ is expressed not just in imploring help, but also in thanksgiving, praise, adoration, contemplation, listening, ardent devotion, until the heart truly falls in love. And the other thing that John Paul mentions is that in the past, you had the supportive culture of Christendom, like everybody's Christian, and you sort of can just sort of coast along and receive all these, wisdom of Christianity from, the world around you. But a lot of that is gone. We don't live really in a Christian society. And so that's all the more important that each of us has a personal relationship with God. And so,
Dan, I might just chime in here a second.
sure.
So you're sort of stirring some thoughts here, and there's two words that kind of are speaking out to me, and something that I've been pondering quite a bit as well. It's the relationship and prayer, and prayer being a conversation with God, and obviously a relationship being our relationship with God. And I kind of see those as kind of two things that are sort of marching along together, because I related that to personal relationship with beings that I'm walking on this earth with now. And it's sort of the more you know them, the deeper that your conversations become, the better your relationship develops, the more that you share on the personal side. So to me, it's like something that actually is moving together.
Mm.
Right.
That's a good point.
So, yeah, and, one of the things that he mentions also in this chapter is, like we said, it's not uncommon to pass the buck to others. Like, oh, well, I'm pretty busy. I'm a lay person, I've got a family, I've got my, work and everything. Holiness, that's kind of for the professionals like the priests and the nuns. And then he says, like, well, the priests and nuns are pretty busy too. And they say, well, that's for the monks and the cloistered sisters. And the cloistered sisters, well, we're so busy with the, making the communion bread and the jam and everything else. And that's for the hermits, and the hermits probably have their own, way of thinking about, and as a lay person, one of the things that I noticed as I'm trying to get into this way of life is that you need to have prayer time with God alone. But the conversation and the relationship continues in your daily life too. So it's not just like, okay, now I'm praying, good, I'm glad I got that done, and now I go out and it sort of flows together. So I thought the sort of format here is that we would, I would talk a little bit about the book, and then we could split into breakout groups where 2 or 3 people get together and we'll talk about, just reactions to that. And so we're going to try to do that. But before we do that, I'm going to do another amazing technological feat and share. I hope this is the right document here. I think this is it with the questions. 2 simple questions. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Great. So the questions to discuss and of course people can talk about other things too. Have you felt called to holiness? And if you felt that, what has held you back? So what we'll do is we'll talk amongst ourselves, in small groups for, I would say, about 10 minutes. And then we'll come back to the big group, and one person from the group could sort of sum up what the group has talked about. Does that sound good? Okay, so, well, I'll get things started here, talking to, just to talk about what our group talked about. And I thought it was just fantastic. One of the things that was said was that the perfect is the enemy of the good. So, we're talking about perfection. And
Dan, who was in your group, just so I can,
that was Paul and Jennifer were in my group.
okay.
Okay. I won't tell you who said what.
That's Diane's.
What does that mean? Can you explain that, please?
Well, that you could do nothing for a long, or come up with a perfect plan and never be able to actually fulfill it, or you could just do what you can do as well as you can do it, and do something good, so that
That's very good.
when you're reading
That's
about
very
these
good.
saints,
I've
and
always
people you
liked
love.
that saying.
Yeah.
Very
And
true.
the other side of it is that the idea of that people, maybe a lot of times people say, well, I'm too busy, or I can't be prayerful, I can't go to church or anything. And part of that might be that you don't feel worthy, that and that's what Jesus came for. The veil of the temple was torn, that separates us from God. That was Jesus' whole mission, so we could have that relationship with God, and we could be worthy. And that sometimes that might be the root of all our busyness and things that we say we can't do that. And again, it doesn't.
Orange.
What's that? Okay, it just comes from, comes back to the idea of doing what you can do. Well, I'm not a great saint, I'm not, but you can love God, and just be with God. You don't have to do any of these great things. So that's what came out of our little group. Who's next?
Oh. Cat from the clouds.
Charlie.
Oh.
So many
Oh,
times.
we're back.
All right. Wentworth, who were you in a
We're
group
trying
with?
to get the gallery. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Did you get it?
No.
Are you on a
We're
computer or
trying
an
to push
iPad?
buttons.
There should be something that has like a bunch of little squares that says gallery view on
It
it.
says view on
your
it. It says
screen.
view.
Yeah, Charlie, it should be up on the upper right-hand corner. It says view.
Sometimes it's different on a pad.
I was
iPad
gonna
or
say, if you're
phone.
on an
I'm on a
iPad,
pad.
it looks
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
I don't know
Mine,
what they're.
yeah, mine's on the left because it's an iPad.
Well, in mine, you can't find the gallery view unless you touch the screen. When
Well,
you
yeah,
touch
you have
the screen, then it pops up.
Oh.
No, it's okay.
It says,
All right.
yeah, it's okay.
Well, I'd love to hear what your group talked about.
Well,
Anybody?
I think our group kind of talked about it not being very easy. I mean, there are certain things that we have to do to take time in our life to pursue holiness. Basically.
Yeah. So that's why you're here.
Yeah.
That's part of it. Yes. That's
Great.
good.
So what was the other group? Yeah.
I was with Kate, but I'll let her do a little talking because she really hit on it well. But what a lot came out was the voice, listening to that inner voice, which is really God speaking to you. And she talked about some readings. So Kate, you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, because we actually spent a lot of time on the being called and we were just getting started on the what held you back. But basically for myself, it was about Father McDonough had recommended the Rediscover Catholicism, and one of the things that he said in that book was the spiritual reading, and so yeah, that's kind of why we're here. But in reading this, and looking at the 3 different stages as far as what holds you back, it's like, yeah, okay, I kind of got that first one, and maybe even got a little start on the second. Boy, the rest of that looks hard. Kind of like, I'm not so sure about this, but got to give it a go. Got to give it a try. So
Yeah.
that's a lot there. Like they, I think it was in his book, it's not possible. Holiness is not possible for us on our own.
No.
So that was mine, and we didn't even get a chance to talk about, but that was my thought. It's okay. I'm gonna give God this chance to help me out because I think I need it.
I was asking her when we finished about if she does the rosary.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes.
So how powerful. This summer I was up north a lot, and the church up in Van Buren, they had people come in at noontime. They did the rosary every single day, 7 days a week for months. It started in the spring, and they prayed for COVID. They prayed for rain because it was really dry.
Yeah.
It's the rosary is just so. I had said it before with my elderly mother, but it's such a powerful tool. And I know I need to say it more often. And when you say it out loud, especially the prayers and understand the mysteries, it's anyway.
Yeah. I have to say, when especially at night when I'm having trouble sleeping because something's bothering me, the rosary is my go-to. And sometimes that puts me to sleep, which is fine, but a lot of times I get through the whole thing, but it just calms me down. Like, okay, I can't get past this, so I'm just going to pray. And that's one of my favorite things. Or if I'm driving, sometimes same thing, just okay, I'm gonna just say a rosary now. And you're right, it's very strong.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the rosary thing. A lot of people recommend the rosary and testify to how powerful it is. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to go with that wisdom. And I've tried to say a daily rosary. Sometimes I'm catching up all the time, but I do find that it's got a special grace to it. That's very satisfying and deep and beautiful. I'm liking the rosary more.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have one more group or two? Who else we got here?
I see Kathy Dunn and I had a group with Rose. And a call to holiness. We all agreed, I think, that we were called to holiness, all of us, and in one way or another learned that we were called to holiness. And of course, my deal about what held me back was time, being a busy mother of 4 years ago. And I just didn't think I had enough time. And also for me, it was also having a non-Catholic husband who just didn't really, he didn't get why I had to go to church on Sundays, or why I wanted to do stuff at church or whatever. He just didn't get it. And I told him, I don't know if it was this morning. I said, yeah, I'm going to have this meeting, another Zoom meeting. I said, and I know you don't get it, but I'm so lucky. And he says, well, yeah, you know it. You are lucky. He lets me do it.
Well, that's his call to holiness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not kidding. I told Father Doobie, you know, he's a saint. And then there's always this joke, you know, that says, who can live with a saint? Only a martyr. So there
That ought
you
to be a
go.
bumper sticker.
That's a good one. Good one.
So Rose and
Oh,
Kathy,
dear.
one of you guys has to add more to it because, you know, my short-term memory is not real good. No, both of them won't unmute themselves. There we go.
There you go.
I was gonna say, I just was gonna say that my relationship with God was one just in the last year or so. I've been having that call for the holiness more, and I was telling them that I had read somewhere, if you want to know what your primary fault is, you ask Mary, the undoer of knots, and your guardian angel, and they'll make it clear to you. And it was the lack of trust I had in God, and so that's kind of the one I'm working on right now. And I can see it everywhere. I didn't realize how pervasive it was, but yeah, it's there.
Sure.
We struggle with that, all of us.
Mhm.
I say that my full-time job is trusting God. My full-time job, trusting God.
Yep,
That's
that's
a good
what-
one.
So do we get everybody, or who got all the groups here? Okay. Well, that just ties in really well. One of the things that it's all the saints will tell you is that like we said, you can't do it without God. So you have to trust in God, and always trust in God. Talking about what's your primary fault. I don't know if I want to ask, but I think I have some ideas. But well, the one thing that, like I said at the beginning, for me, the big revelation was to just to admit, like, no, I don't love God the way I should, the way, I could. And certainly, so that's a great, powerful thing. It's like if you go to the doctor and it says, oh, you've got this condition. And you say, well, you keep going to other doctors till you find one who says, no, you don't have the condition. Like, oh, great. No, you're like, you do something about it, so that's the first step is to realize, what you're lacking and what you need.
Sorry.
That phone. So we're sort of out of time here. I did make a, well, now I don't think I have it up to share it. Who does not have the book? So we got two people that don't.
We've ordered it.
Oh, you don't have the book either. So let me just.
No, we've ordered it. Should be here in a few days.
Okay, I got it. I'm gonna get this thing up on the screen and rotate it, and so you can see it, and try to make it bigger. I made a copy of. He's got this little chart of what the different stages of the Christian life. So I'm going to try to.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about when I said it was hard.
Kate we were looking at that chart. I think it's the same chart.
Now
Yeah.
I'm sharing this
Chart
thing.
right
I don't
here.
know if you can even read that. Is that?
Yep, there it is.
If I can.
Yeah.
Bigger, can you? Oh, here we go. We can zoom in. Oh, look at that. Can you see that?
Oh,
It's very magnified.
Missing a
that?
little bit of the, yeah, there you go.
Can you read it?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Teresa, John of the Cross.
So yeah, down on this side you have the different authors he goes into other ones too, but these are the saints that make up most of the book of who he's quoting on the spiritual life, and they're writing independently. I mean, I'm sure they were aware of each other, those who came after, one came after the other, but they all sort of had these different experiences and used different words to describe it, but they sort of fall into these categories of stages of spiritual life. And so what they call the purgative way, uh, which Teresa of Avila describes as mansions 1 to 3, and what happens there is you're turning away from sin, praying, growing in stable, well-ordered Catholic life. And then John of the Cross calls it beginners, where you start meditation and something he calls the active night of the senses that we'll find more out about, and the passive night of the senses. And, you know, Catherine of Siena describes it as slavish fear, being afraid of God, you know, being the sort of the beginning of a relationship with God, is realizing, you know, that God is to be, you know, to be obeyed and to be feared. And she calls it the embrace of the feet of Christ, which is your conversion. And then Bernard of Clairvaux talks about natural affection and, you know, loving the people who love us, prostrate at the feet of Christ, repentance from sin, conversion. So you could see, I won't go through all of these, but you could see that they're similar in describing what happens at this stage. And if you, you know, as you keep at it, you come up to the illuminative way, and each saint describes it a little bit differently. But it's basically the same idea that you're growing in your prayer, you have a little bit more control of sin in your life, you're exercising your will a little bit more on your, you know, your moral life, and you're getting deeper into prayer, and you might have, you know, some, you know, deeper experiences of prayer. And then you move on to the unitive way, and that's when you're pretty much just one, you know, with God as much as you can be in this world. And, you know, that your priorities, your whole heart is with God. And you know, I just want to say quickly something about this word perfect. John of the Cross says, you know, when you reach the unitive way, you're perfect, you know. And somebody described that to me one time. You know, I said, well, I'll never be perfect. You know, God is perfect. Be perfect as God is perfect. And they said, well, you know, if you're, say you're a plumber or something, and you're working on, you know, something, and you need a tool, and you've got this whole tray of nice, brand new, shiny, beautiful tools, and none of them fit. And there's this old rusty wrench that's, you know, the handle's broken and everything, but it's the perfect fit for what you needed to do. And that's what the perfection, you know, that God, you know, you're perfect for what God has meant you to do. So it doesn't mean that you can do everything, that you are God. It just means that you have reached the level of being you, really, you know, what you're meant to do. So anyway, the only thing beyond that is the beatific vision in heaven, where we'll be knowing and loving as we are known and loved. And that's really what we all want, right? When we say you want to go to heaven, that's the goal. So, you know, we have these other stages, and one of the things that they also say is that it's not like you wake up and like, oh, gee, look at that, I'm in the unitive, you know, or, or you know, gee, last week I was in the illuminative. It comes and goes. You have bits and pieces of each of those as you go through life. You know, I would definitely say I'm in the purgative way, but you get the occasional illuminative moment, you know. So it depends. It's not cut and dried, but it's a real good guide, and I found it, for me, it seemed to be something that was, you know, sort of a kind of confirmation of faith that, you know, that everybody sort of goes along the same road, you know, that these things happen. And I just remember, I know we want to get out of here, but there's one little quick story. There was a person I knew who had this great faith and had all kinds of what they call consolations of God speaking to him, real clear voice, and just all kinds of things, good things were happening. And I had read about what the saints say is like, that goes away, you know, God takes that away from you. But that's when you go into a deeper spirituality. That's when you go into a deeper relationship where that is taken away. And that's what, some of the dark night of the senses. You don't experience it, but God is there. And this person was very angry that I had said that. Like, didn't want to hear anything about that. And, I don't know what happens to them. I haven't seen them in a long time, but I felt bad because, you don't want to lose your faith because you lose certain experiences. We're not after certain experiences. We're after God himself, So with that, hopefully next week will be less time just introducing and stuff, and we can get right into the stuff, and we'll keep it within the hour. So I thought maybe we could just close by praying the Our Father together. How's that? And we'll do it quietly. It's going to sound like mush if we're all. You can mute yourself if you want, but so in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Our Father, who art in
Lord in heaven,
hallowed
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done
on earth as it is
as
in
it is
heaven.
in heaven.
Give us this day
our
our
daily
daily bread,
and
And
forgive
forgive
us
us
our
our
trespasses
trespasses,
as we
as we
forgive
go
trespass against us.
and lead us not
into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
evil.
Amen.
Right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so good to see everyone.
Dan, Dan, I have a quick question.
Sure.
Dan, is there a specific like chapter or anything we're supposed to be reading this next coming week?
Okay. I thought I had sent. Maybe you didn't get it because you were sort of latecomer. I sent an email talking about what we will be covering each week.
Yeah.
And so next week, where is it? I have these documents open here. Hopefully we'll be starting in on the Purgative Way. So chapter 3 and 4, there's awakening and conversion and the biblical worldview of the saints. So those are the two chapters we'll be covering next week. If you like to read them, like I say, this book itself is an introduction to a lot more reading and study and things. And so this book study is sort of an introduction to the book. So it'd be good to read it, but if you don't read it, it'll be a good preparation. This will be a good preparation for when you do read it.
There's also a study guide, and when I ordered the book, it offered this, so I got it for my own personal, just so some people might know.
Could you send whatever you sent? Because I didn't get it either.
Okay.
Which
I'll send it out
not
again
surprised.
to the whole.
Thank you.
Whole group.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Thanks, Rose.
Yeah,
To
this
meet
yes.
link that you
Thanks,
had
Rose.
today, the link that you had today should work for the next weeks that we're together. What I'll try to do is send it out the morning of, just in case you misplaced it.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Debbie.